Come.
No, I think we should introduce.
I just want to make sure the camera
I think because
saw
you're
that.
in that seat, I think it's.
She doesn't have to introduce, but go on if you want to introduce. You got a guest.
Introduce it.
What am I saying?
What do you mean?
Okay, so
Lawrence, introduce yourself.
Yeah, Lawrence, introduce yourself. We have a new guest.
Oh, has it started?
Yeah.
We're live.
Someone said you're very vocal today. Ask her last time you wasn't vocal. That was wrong. But anyways,
Fair enough.
yeah, my name is Lawrence. I'm a member of these guys' church. Been going for a minute now, and they've asked me to grace their podcast.
You asked to come on.
We're
right?
graced.
I
We're
did
graced.
what?
You asked to come
Cat.
on. Did you not ask to come on?
Definitely didn't, bro.
Okay, cool.
I was approached.
Oh,
See?
okay, Mason. I didn't know.
Headhunted.
I didn't know.
It's cool.
That's it.
Like that, like
Yeah.
that.
What are we saying? What?
What's the topic for discussion?
That's the thing. I think.
So we've got a main one that we're gonna hit on.
What's the main one?
It's that we're going to hit on. I don't want to hit on it now.
Oh, you don't want to.
We'll hit on it.
What's
but-
the first thing?
Before, I feel I kind of want to like know everyone's idea of coming into church young, like the benefits and the pros.
Okay.
Not the benefits, the pros and the cons. Like, what do you feel like there's a pro and a con? Like, can everyone state their age first? Like,
I'm
if you don't mind.
22 years old.
25.
24.
You're 24.
Yeah, bro. Look,
I'm 21, so I'm the youngest in it.
Baby.
the skin regime. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
We need to hear from your perspective first.
So I'm 21. Okay, I got saved at 16, and I would say when you first get into church, it's like, yeah, it's gonna be cool. Like the moment you first come in, you don't really look at what's to come. So when I first got saved, I was like, yeah, cool. When you're in church and you realize, I want to be a part of this, I want to be a part of that. I think that's very hard, being young and getting saved. And for me,
It's hard.
it was a sticky one. Because I did end up leaving church for a bit. Uni, being in a relationship, all of that, it was hard. So I think, I think that's most of the hardest thing being young. That's for me, pros. Cons, I mean, the fact that you, as someone being in the world, I'm missing out
Yeah, that
on a
feeling
lot
is-
as a young G.
I can relate 100%. Like I got saved at 18 initially,
Mm-hmm.
and then a little bit after that went to uni, and then just the pressures and the enticement of things that are out there, innit? Like
Mhm.
it is, I don't know, girls parties, whatever it is, and then you start to tell yourself, yeah, I can still do these things and still be a Christian and still alright. And then after a while, I just completely fell off church, fell off the faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only when I became like 24 that I really became a Christian and really became saved again. So it's very hard. It's very hard because like you got so many pressures, so many people telling you, enticing you to trying to do different things.
I hear that.
Yeah, I got saved at 17. So, but I've been in church all my life. So for me, it's a thing where I've always been exposed to church. I was in Sunday school from young. I was always exposed to church. So I decided to go to church off my own accord at 17. And that was Potter's House Church, and that's the church we're all at now. How did I feel? I felt like when I was 17, although I was very young and I'm still young now, before the age of 17, I had kind of been there and done that in terms of like, I've gone out with my friends, I'd, had the relationships and stuff like that. So I felt as though what else more does the world have to offer? And so I was just like,
Let me get that.
I was just like, what else? I felt like I was ready to kind of have a relationship with God properly.
Okay.
So then, for me, I always used to question like the people who grew up in church. Like now, the church that I'm at now, there are people who are like 21 and stuff who are in church now, and they've been in church for 6.
Yeah.
There was this not freedom, but there hasn't been any
Chance to
experience anything.
Yeah.
And for me,
Do you think that's important?
well, this is why we've had a couple discussions with these people, and I think there's pros and cons to both.
100%.
You've got the whole aspect of I've experienced it, so I know what's there, and I don't have to really go back. And then you've got the thing where I've been protected by it all, kind of thing. And obviously, God has a plan for us all differently. My path's different to Lawrence's path. So God might say, China, I want to protect you from the outside world because I know how far you can go into sin. Whereas Lawrence, he might, allow you to see what sin can do and will wheel you back in.
No, not like that,
Your like headspace though, you might be like, do you know what? I don't want to come back because I love it. And he's like, look, you've gone further than you should have, kind of thing. So I feel like that everyone has this. God has a plan for everybody differently. So yeah, I feel like he had to allow me to see some things, experience some things, so I could sit back and be like, you know what, I'm filled properly. Late comer, you alright?
Who's that?
CK.
Is that Daniel?
Yeah, so I would sit it properly. So yeah, I feel like I'm very grateful that
Bought food for himself.
Selfish.
that's it.
He got sweets.
Nothing for the group.
No, it's calm.
I'm joking, man. It's cool.
Yeah, go on, Lawrence.
I'm grateful that I've experienced life and stuff like that. Go on.
Yeah, man. I think I've been in church most of my life. So obviously, I went to like a Catholic primary school, innit? And then obviously, my mom kind of like pushed me into going to Catholic church, and then I was even at one point a Catholic altar boy, innit?
Oh, wow.
And then I ended up going to a non-faith school. So obviously, my mom's still forcing on me, and then eventually I managed to get out of it. So one thing I would say about like when I was going to that church anyway, it was like kind of had like no real relationship with God. Like it was just like, I don't know, it's weird, like prayers are made for you, you know what I'm saying? Like it's prayers from a book, you're singing hymns. It's like obviously like it works for some people, innit? Like I'm not gonna say like it just, I don't think it worked for me. I think maybe because like the question, like if you are young, you need to make the decision for yourself as opposed to being forced into it. So I don't feel like I had any like real proper connection with God. So obviously I managed to get, I was doing a bit of sports at the time on Sundays and Saturdays, so it required me to miss church.
Leave,
so after that,
I know about that one.
yeah,
I used to do that as well.
Yeah, but yeah, so after that, wasn't really going to church really, and then hit them teenage years, and then my mum sees that starting to rebel a bit, and then obviously my cousin Cressy is part of the church, innit?
See, I didn't even know your cousin.
So she got him to like literally, he would arrive on my doorstep, pick me up and drop me on my doorstep, so there was no real way out of it. And then so I started coming a bit. This was years ago before I went off to uni and that, so I started coming a bit, and then I don't know, I never really got it then either. I think the age demographic of the church was like significantly higher than the age I was like 17, and everyone was probably like 22, 23. So I never really connected with no one. So then I think I got a job. There's time and a half on Sundays, so I was there. And then I went off to uni, and then I was still working Sundays and whatnot, but it was like, I don't know, almost like I think I forgot God. Like, only came back to church on like occasions or for like a wedding or something. And then after I finished, I wasn't working in that job anymore on that Sunday shift. So it was like people were saying to me, "Oh, like, why don't you go to church?" And I was like, I don't want to go to church. So I started going to church now, and we're back to Potter's house. And I won't lie, it was like, I don't know, man. It just felt like there was a whole lot of like yes men. I didn't really get it. So like it was literally that bad. Like I used to fall asleep in service when you're meant to be praying. It's just good.
But everyone goes through that though. Like when I was young, there was no way I was in like the main service and I wasn't sleeping. And I think that's why I'm grateful for the fact that I had the freedom, because when I I was forced to go to church
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Because not even a force where you have to come, but you have to come because you're young.
Yeah.
And where
Yeah.
else are you going to go?
Yeah, that's how it would be. Like I used to go church in Brixton, and I'll go with my mum, and my auntie went there, my brothers went there, and it was like a thing of, if you don't come, where are you going to go?
That's it.
I can't stay at home. I didn't have no key at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
either
innit?
I go to my nan's or I go to church. I don't want to go to my nan's. Let me come to church. And that's the thing with church, yeah. Sometimes I knew there was a reward at the end. And when I was receiving the Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
I knew I was getting a free patty at the end. So I was like, I might as well just
Yeah.
go in it.
Free.
So
Yeah.
that's what kind of hooked me onto it. And for me, I like the fact that I did have that, because you're always, I think as kids we were sponges. So I was picking up things from time. Like I remember when they were speaking about praise and worship, and you'll see, well, that church I went to at the time, they'll all of the ones where they'll just go on the floor and someone come bring a sheet and put it on top of them.
Oh, we all
So they're proper catching the Holy Spirit, like. So that's that's how it was when I was younger. So I knew about the Holy Spirit, but I didn't get the concept. I had an image for the Holy Spirit. I didn't have a knowledge.
Yeah.
So every time I heard Holy Spirit, I was thinking, shake and
Do you
drop
think,
on the floor.
do you think as young people as well, yeah, like the reason we don't always take church seriously because we think we've got not bare time. Like when I'm older,
Oh,
I hit
100%.
20.
Yeah.
I don't. For me, I didn't have that
I had
thought.
Yeah, that man's Adam.
I didn't.
had that
I
100%.
think for me, the
Yeah.
only thing I didn't think about time because I didn't know about being saved.
Okay.
Like I just thought you're Christian. The first time I heard the term saved was when I got saved. So I was thinking, what do you mean I'm not saved? Like, I'm thinking, what? So when I heard that, so that's what kind of made me switch and realize